Hello, ladies and gentlemen. How are you guys doing today? Hopefully, you guys are doing good. This is just a little bit of an introduction to the sourcing resources. So, with that, I want to get started. So, you're going to see on Google Classroom, there is going to be this here that says sourcing resources. If you click on that, it's going to take you to actually three different links. The one we're going to be focused on right now is going to be the Google site. So if you go to that, it's going to take you here. So what is this? This is the last of the DBQ points that we haven't really talked about yet. And it's something that is very important to kind of like separate yourselves from everyone else. I will tell you right now, like this isn't a point that a lot of kids get, but it is a point that is definitely very, very, very good and readily available for you guys to get if you guys do it correctly. It's hard, but it's easy at the same time. That's the only way I can really just say it. So what is sourcing? So as you guys can read here, it's really just taking like the message that the source is giving and giving it context or giving it like the purpose behind it or the perspective behind it or the intended audience of it. And basically it's there to kind of promote your idea of like what it's doing to whatever the prompt is asking you to do. And so that's what we're really spending time on. So like, yes, this isn't just identifying who wrote a document, but explaining why it matters and that there were the ones who wrote it for whatever different reasons. So on AP Classroom and College Board, this is how they say it. They say for at least two documents explains the how or why the document's point of view, purpose, historical situation, and or audience is relevant to the argument that you're trying to make. So basically what you're trying to do is to do one of four things for each of the documents. And again, you only have to do two of these documents. You don't have to do all of them. But these are the four things. So it's a historical situation, intended audience, point of view, or purpose. And I want to make this very clear. You do not have to do all four for one particular document. You only need to do one for a particular document. So for example, if you want to just do historical situation for document 1, go right ahead. Do that for document 1. If you want to do intended audience for document 2, congratulations, do that. Okay, so those are the different things that are like you're kind of tasking yourself in doing. And so with this, I have this nice little sheet, and hopefully I'll be able to print it off for you at some point. But basically what you're doing here is that you are sitting there and asking yourself this question and emphasizing one of the points depending on which one you're trying to answer. So like, why would they say that to them then? Okay, so if you're trying to get purpose, you're going to say, why would they say that to them then? Or if you're trying to get the historical situation, why would you say that? Why would they say that to them then? That's what we're really asking here. So like, that's what we're trying to do, and there's some extra questions to help yourself out with that. So when you scroll more down here, it's going to take you into a couple of different options, a couple of different things that can definitely help you out with all this. So, like, let's go with historical situation. Like, why would you say that to them then? So what is happening in the time and place for the source that was created? How might that shape the source or change its meaning? On top of the intended audience and all that stuff. You will also notice that I gave sentence starters for every single one. So you guys can actually utilize these as you go through the stuff. So yeah, that's really what it's there for. By the way, I do have this in a Google Slides version and also sentence starters for you. By the way, you'll hear me refer to this as HIP, so HIPP, historical situation, intended audience, purpose, and point of view. It's just an acronym for the three. So that is that. So some things to consider and keep in mind as you go through this. First off, the word bias and biased isn't something that you should use in document sourcing. Like, everything you read is biased in some way, shape, or fashion. You really, like, you can't just say, oh yeah, it's biased, because we know that already. What you're trying to do is show, like, the ulterior motives behind that bias, or the persuasion that they're trying to do, or the historical context of what's happening behind it. Put the sourcing information. This is number 2, by the way. put the sourcing information after the argumentation sentence. So as you guys know, you're going to put in doc whatever, it says this, and this is the source. This is how it relates to my thesis or the prompt. And then after that, you're going to put the sourcing information after that. And so then on top of that, try to use the sourcing for all 7 documents. That's the last thing. Again, you only have to do this for 2, but it's better to have backups because this is a hard point to get, and sometimes you're just not put in a good position to actually do that. And so if you do it for all 7 or try to do it for all 7, it helps you out tremendously when it comes to the grading. Again, you only have to do it for 2. If you do it for 4, however, you do get a complexity point that way, so there's that as well. So if you have any questions about that, there is that. So let's do an example really quickly. Let's go to the 2018 Railroads Empires DBQ. We're going to go to document 1. So document 1, if you don't remember, is going to be the petition of the organization consisting of high caste Indians in 1866 to the British colonial government. And so we're really sitting there trying to figure out, like, what's the ulterior motives, what's the perspective, what's the historical context, something along those lines that is going to be very beneficial for our argument. So I'm actually going to split this into 2. So for this, one thing that I would say is if we go up to historical situation, it kind of lends itself pretty well. In 1866, if you remember our conversation about the Sepoy Rebellion, that was in 1857. So we're looking at, in 1857, just 9 years before this, there was the Sepoy Rebellion, which was a sign of resistance to the British not doing what they're supposed to do, or being culturally insensitive to these Indian population people. And so, like, yes, was it a failure of a revolt? Yes, it was. But in 1860 years, 9 years later, they're trying a different way for something that's pretty similar to being culturally insensitive, which is their caste system. So if I were to use this, I would say historical situation is a good part to start off with. And you can use these sentence starters. So I can sit here and say this document was written during, and I wouldn't say during, I would actually say after the events of the 1857 Sepoy Rebellion, which influenced this author to talk about or try to find another way to show that resistance or try and make the British change their ways of doing things because it's being culturally insensitive to these high caste Indians. And so, like, it's just a way for them to do that. If I go to point of view, I can go to the idea, like, yes, this is an organization of high caste Indians. So I can say, like, as a high caste Indian organization, the author would view this situation as very discriminatory, very angrily, because of the fact that they're not showing that respect for their caste system and not showing that they are really taking in what the indigenous population has done for centuries. And so, like, that's another way you can do that. That's another point of view that you can use. Can you use purpose? Yeah, you can. You can say the author's primary goal in writing this was to persuade the British to actually, like, not to change the railroad card situation, which is why they would, like, write a letter, like, trying to be nice to them first. So, like, that's why you can do that. Intended audience, you can do this. It doesn't really lend itself to anything, but you can try. It's something that you want to do. So that is that. So let me get out of this. So this is what I would like for you guys to do, and this is what the conversation is going to be. I need you guys to, for all 7 documents, I want you guys to try and do this. Try and actually do one of the HIP sourcing things for each of the documents. I kind of did document 1 with you with a couple, just to kind of show you how to do it. Try this on your own. I don't have, like, a magic school AI to actually help you with this. But do me a favor, try this. Put it on the back of your DBQ analysis guide, and we'll go from there. And so I will be checking that on Friday. So make sure that you have that done for Friday. If you're looking at this in the future, whenever the next day is in class. Have a great day. Bye.